Everyone, welcome back to Touch the Fire Twice. I'm Joshua, and I'm here today to do an in-depth sniff and comparison review of the newly launched LAFCO New York Paloma Melon candle. But before we dig into that, if you're new to Touch the Fire Twice, welcome. My mission here is to share my love and passion for fine home fragrance as an enthusiast, an educator, a reviewer, to inspire you to increase your own fragrance knowledge and understanding, ultimately enhancing the scent memories that you create. If you want to learn more about what I do, why I do it, how I do it, you can check out my website at TouchTheFireTwice.com and follow me over on Instagram, also at TouchTheFireTwice. But for now, let's dig into Paloma Melon. So first of all, I will say thank you to LAFCO New York for sending this over to me. As always, you can rest assured that any candle I review, any product I review, whether I received it from a brand or purchased it with my own money, which is vast majority of the things you see on the channel are things that I purchased with my own hard-earned money. You can rest assured that my review absolutely will be completely honest and truthful. I always seek the good, but I don't hide from the negative or the critiques because I do want to give helpful feedback, even if it is critical. So that is what I'll do here, as I do in all of my videos. And this is an in-depth sniff and comparison review. So the way that will work is I will open this, give you the unboxing, talk about the product itself, share the brand's story, their description of what they say this fragrance should evoke, that mood, moment, memory, space, place, or time that it is meant to bring you to. I will get my nose on it and tell you what I think of the fragrance, how I feel, and what I literally sniff in it. Then we'll do what I really love to do on the educational side of things is dig into the notes. So there are primary notes on this, but of course there are 9 or 10 notes in that full top, middle, bottom build of the fragrance. And we'll go note by note talking about what is this, what does it smell like, where is it from? When you smell that in fragrance, this is what you're smelling. You'll understand if you like it, if you don't like it, or things you like of other fragrances. You know, what is orris, what is galbanum, what is muguet? Understanding what those are and what they smell like will get you to understand, just like, you know, when you're drinking wine, if you know what you're smelling or what you're tasting, you can have a better appreciation for it and understand what you like and know what you should and shouldn't buy. Or when you go somewhere and they say, what do you like? You can actually be specific versus just saying, oh, I like sweet things, or I like woody fragrances, right? So you can say which kind of wood or what type of fruits or what combinations of notes within fragrance families, right? So we'll do that. And finally, because this is an in-depth sniff and comparison review, I do have 4 fragrances here that are in a similar realm or aspect when it comes to the primary notes that are in here to compare it to. And so these are fragrances, I'll tell you right off the bat. 1 is a LAFCO fragrance, 1 is Boy Smells, and 2 are from Bath & Body Works White Barn Candle Company. So the idea is some of these fragrances you may have smelled before and be familiar with. And so when I do the comparison, it's not just do I like something, what do I think of it, but truly, how does it compare from one to the next? Is the melon note similar? Are there green notes that are similar? It's different in this way. The lemon is different here or there. To really help you build that fragrance in your mind's eye or your mind's nose to understand what it truly smells like, and if you might like this or the others. So let's dig on into the unboxing. I love LAFCO's art direction, their marketing in general. I'm always a fan of what they have to offer. This is their traditional 15.5 ounce signature candle, and they do these sort of wraps sometimes. And so this is, you can see, sort of a summer pastel. There's a bit of a sheen, a bit of almost like a light metallic sheen to the wraparound. This is embossed here, Paloma Melon with veranda. As this is part of their house and home collection, there's always going to be a location, so veranda, bedroom, spa, study, office, kitchen, that is suggestive to say this is the place that this might evoke for you or where it would fit in well burning, and primary notes listed here as well. But let's slide this off and dig on in. Their boxes here are really great for storing. These are big candles, so I often don't finish them within a season. Sometimes I do, but sometimes I'll carry them through the next year. And these are great for storage. They're padded. This big hefty candle is not going to shake around in here because there's that foam pad on top and an insert around the candle. As you can see, I have burned this a few times. Getting into the candle, this is their traditional 15.5 ounce single wick candle, primarily soy-based with a touch of paraffin, just they say to get the fragrance up into the air. Paraffin is molecularly lighter, so it is easier for the fragrance molecules to attach and literally get up into the air when the candle is combusting and burning, versus soy, which, though a cleaner burn and more environmentally friendly, it is molecularly heavier, and so it can be a bit harder to get the strength, throw, and projection. They have really beautiful artisanal hand-blown vessels, by far my favorite vessels across any fragrance brand. These are truly works of art. They are handmade. You can see here this is a really kind of creamy, almost like a creamy peach or a creamy grapefruit perhaps, with those little wisps of color that really look pretty when the candle is lit, especially in the evening. If it's a bit dim, you can sort of see that luminary flicker coming through there. And these are great to repurpose for planting, for cocktails. I mean, that's a big almost pint-sized cocktail here. Maybe their 6.5 ounces better for a strong cocktail, but these are really great for many, many things. So the Paloma Melon fragrance launched late spring 2023 across multiple product offerings with LAFCO. They have the 15.5 ounce signature candle with a burn time of about 90 hours. They also have a 6.5 ounce classic candle, also single wick, a bit smaller, with a burn time of about 50 hours. And they do have this fragrance in 2 different diffusers, so their traditional reed diffuser, as well as their Pura Smart diffuser refill. Now let's get into the scent story. A warm summer breeze carries the herbaceous, minty scent of wild rosemary across the veranda and through the open windows. Being prepared inside, the fresh, fruity aromas of sweet cassava melon, juicy cantaloupe, and tangy lime meet, creating a vivid kaleidoscope of scent that is refreshing and vivacious. All right, so we're going off of primary notes of lime, wild rosemary, cassava melon, and let's say cantaloupe. One thing I was curious of with this was Paloma. I know that there was a cocktail called a Paloma in Mexico. Traditionally, that's going to be a mixture of tequila, lime juice, and a grapefruit-based soda. Think Squirt or Fresca. Could also be fresh grapefruit juice, but traditionally actually is a grapefruit soda. And Paloma means dove in Spanish. Getting my nose on this. Oh, this really is so cleanly a true summer fragrance. It has this balanced fruity freshness without being overly juicy, zesty, or mouth-watering tropical. When you think of some of the Bath & Body Works fragrances that are just sugar bombs or drippingly, cloyingly strong, the Homeworks White Sangria or many of the Bath & Body Works tropical drink or just summer fragrances. This has an authenticity to it. There's the sweetness of some citruses in here because we do have lime, mandarin, and yuzu, but also that musky freshness of melons because we've got cantaloupe and the cassava melon. There are some green, maybe almost cooling or herbal aspects with sort of the rosemary, mint, and clary sage, but this is not what I would consider truly herbal, where some things are fruits with herbs or green notes that are really a balanced partnership of those 2 fragrance categories. For me, this is more so the green notes counter the musky sweetness of the melons. And also what's in here really is the fruity factor in this for me is it's more like, I almost get sort of a tropical fruit punch essence, but not in the artificial or in the super sweet, cloying, sugary aspect, but almost more the acidity. So it has that acidity, almost the tart, sour pucker that you get from a fruit punch, but not the cloying sugar sweetness side of it. And though it does have notes of a salted musk and bamboo, again going into musky and then green with the bamboo, it still to me does lean borderline, let's call it edible, almost like a beverage, kind of in a hydrating fruit water. Maybe throw a shot of tequila in there if you partake, or gin even. But it's more so this hydrating fruit water beverage to really sit, relax, and rejuvenate after a long day in the sun. And so all told, it really is this mixture, this really fine balance of citrus, melon, green notes, and a bit of that musk, almost kind of tertiary of some floral in there with clary sage and a bit of floral that could come from yuzu, which we'll get into in a second when we go into the deep dive on the notes. And I will say when it comes to the comparison that I'll be doing a bit later on, though there are similar fragrances with sort of citrus, melon, and green notes, this remains the most summery of them all. Getting into the performance, like many single wick candles, especially when you have a fairly wide width, you're talking 15.5 ounces, that's a solid size candle. It's bigger than your 3-wick Bath & Body Works candles that are 14.5 ounce with 3 wicks. This is not as wide of a diameter. It still is a fair amount of wax and a healthy diameter. Because of that, oftentimes this size, their signature 15.5 ounce candles, do require aluminum foil wraps, either to get that initial full pull started. Sometimes you can take it off, it's good, it's fine, you don't have to do it a second time, third time. Other times I found, until you get a little bit further down into the vessel, usually, not always, but usually it will correct to at some point you no longer will need to do that foiling. But I typically have to do that to ensure it does get that full pull, even in a 68 to 72 degree draft-free home. So that is frustrating. I wish there could be something done to sort of tweak the formula or the wicks, the wax, something on the science side of it to ensure that it is properly wicked to get to that full pull within a couple of hours without the assistance of a foil wrap. But this is not an issue that is unique to LAFCO. Nearly all luxury and non-luxury fragrance companies that have single wick candles, especially bigger than a small little 2-inch diameter, are going to have a bit of a struggle here and there on getting a full pull without some sort of cover to maintain that heat to ensure the wax does get pulled all the way to the edges. That said, when there is that full wax pull, a very healthy strength, throw, and projection. So there's a nice load of fragrance oils in here. It is a medium strong, just fragrance blend itself, with it not being a 9-10 in strength. To me, that's part of what keeps this more authentic. You're smelling authentic, true essential oils of these fragrances. So it is going to be not that artificial candy watermelon. You're gonna be smelling the true melon essence when it comes to this, which is not going to be a 10 out of 10 in strength. However, when it comes to the throw and projection, very healthy. Now let's dig into these notes. As you can see here, there are 10 notes in the full build of the top, middle, and bottom of the fragrance. We're gonna go through them, talk a bit about them. I won't take too long on them because I do wanna get to the comparison, but let's learn what these are. So the first top note is yuzu. Yuzu is a citrus fruit native to East Asia. It has, think, the sweetness of a mandarin orange with some of the tartness of a grapefruit and tang of a lemon, though not as astringent or as sour as either of those, a bit fresher, lighter, and more complex. Because of its flavor, the flesh of the yuzu can be eaten, but typically it's not because it has large seeds and not a lot of juice. And the best edible part of it is actually that loose, bumpy skin, its rind, as the oils in there and its zest has an extremely bright, refreshing, borderline floral aroma. It's a sparkling fragrance that offers floral, green, bitter, tart, and sweet facets, and really considered to be calming and uplifting. Then we've got lime. Everyone knows lime is zingy, bright, energizing, that tart citrus. It brings a vibrant freshness to fragrances and a bit of a sparkle as well. Lively green, tonic, uplifting. Similar to lemon, but it has a more intense, fresher, sharper scent than lemon. And they actually say that sometimes it can naturally remind you of sort of a Coca-Cola note or sour candy smell. It's sharp, airy, and awakening. Our final citrus is mandarin, which is a smaller variation of the common orange, but typically even sweeter and less acidic. It's gonna give you that whoosh of uplifting zestiness, overall sweet, refreshing citrus. And then we've got cantaloupe. I think most of us know and have eaten cantaloupe. It tends to be sort of a love or hate, or a like or hate fruit, I believe, and melons in general tend to be that way, I think. And a ripe cantaloupe will have a fresh, sweet, almost musky aroma. In fragrance, it'll also be a bit creamy, kind of green, a bit of an earthy aspect to it. Different from a watermelon in that a watermelon would be slightly sweet and more candy-like, without the musky side that cantaloupe and other melons have. Getting into our middle notes, we've got mint leaves. Doesn't specify peppermint or spearmint, though I think it's safe to likely assume spearmint when it is not specified. And that is because peppermint is actually a hybrid of spearmint and watermint. So peppermint is bracing, cooling, refreshing, and menthol, whereas your spearmint really has almost no menthol. It's sweeter, not much of a cooling effect to it, but it is that traditional soft mint, which I think is likely the one that's in here because there's not a heavy hit of the mint, regardless of which one it is. Then we've got bamboo, which in fragrance is going to evoke a fresh, woody, dry, green, they say almost paper-like fragrance, and it's used to bring the idea of nature to a fragrance. Think many of your spa fragrances have that in there. Your Fresh Bamboo at Bath & Body Works leans very botanical and even sometimes aquatic. Rosemary, perhaps my favorite herb when it comes at least to cooking and the fragrance as well, I suppose. Rosemary is a woody evergreen with those super fragrant needle-like leaves. And depending on the variety, it can have white, purple, blue, or pink flowers. It's that culinary herb, pungent, camphoraceous, minty, lavender-like, and very aromatic. Comparing to lavender, because they do have some similarities, while lavender is known for its sweet floral aroma, rosemary has that true herbal, pine-like scent. And then our final middle note and final melon is the cassava melon. Now this is melon that I don't know that I've ever eaten. Probably available in some supermarkets, though at least in my local supermarket, I did not have it. Otherwise I would have been cutting into it. You know, I like to bring guava nectar or clary sage oil or juniper berries to any fragrance review I do to really get that true comparison to understand what I'm trying to sniff in a fragrance. Couldn't find cassava melon. However, it is a winter muskmelon thought to have originated in Turkey with a textured yellow rind and pointed end. The scientific name, for those who are interested, is Cucumis melovar inodorus. They say it to be faintly sweet, less sweet than our other melons that you may be familiar with, at least in the Western world. And while it is faintly sweet, it really blurs the line between a botanical fruit and a culinary vegetable. It is refreshing with that mildly sweet flavor, not unlike that perhaps of an Asian pear, with a little bit of a peppery aspect to it as well. There's a heavy hit of a cucumber flavor in there as well, which pulls back on the sweetness, and a hint of that muskiness, a little bit dirty, a little bit animalic musk in that cassava melon. Related to the honeydew, but not nearly as sweet. And then getting into our two base notes, we have salted musk. Of course, musk is a class of aromatic substances all its own, very commonly used as base notes in perfumery. Initially, they were glandular secretions from animals, such as the musk deer, as well as numerous plants that emit that similar fragrance, and now artificial fragrances that have similar odors to it. They are attractants, alluring, hypnotizing, animalic, sweet, powdery, metallic, musky in name and in fragrance. They really bring a musky sensuality to a fragrance. Salted musk, frankly, I'm not sure exactly what the adjective of salted brings to musk. One would imagine it's going to be perhaps a bit sharper, a bit drier. When you think of salted air, it's going to be a little bit dirty, a little bit either aquatic or ozonic, or maybe even woody, versus maybe a honeyed musk that would lean more sweet. And finally, clary sage. So there are 900 varieties of sage bushes around the world. White, purple, golden, bergamot, common garden, and what we're talking about today, clary sage. So though all sage smells herbaceous, the scent of the common garden sage that we cook with in the Western world very commonly is robust and very sharp, while the scent of clary sage has a softer, sweeter, warmer, almost musk-like, which probably is why it appears in the base notes versus, a bright green mid-note, as well as a significant floral lavender-like edge. Earthy tea, sweet anise, almost a nuttiness perhaps. It's said to be tranquil and calming and thought to have the most medicinal property compared to other sages, but really it does lean in that floral sage, thanks to that slightly astringent lavender aspect. So those are our 10 notes, and now let's dig into the comparison review. So first up, let's actually compare LAFCO to LAFCO. This is from their Restorative Retreat trio of Retreat, Cucumber Mint, and Parsley Sage. You can see my review I did of that here a couple months back. Cucumber Mint, when I first sniffed Paloma Melon, I immediately thought, could this be Cucumber Mint? And side by side, they're quite different, but there are some similarities and certainly worth comparing to because they have some similar notes and both within the same brand. It's nice to do that side by side. So the Cucumber Mint, oh man, that's quite nice. I said in the trio it was my least favorite of the three, but I really do like all three. And this, smelling it now, perhaps as I'm getting closer to the summer, the sweetness in here I'm actually appreciating more than I did in the earlier spring. With this, comparing side by side though, there is much more mint in the Cucumber Mint, understandably so, than the little bit of mint we get in the middle of the Paloma Melon. This is cooler, crisper, doesn't have any of the citrus that we're getting in the Paloma Melon. They're similar in kind of that middle green, cucumber, airy notes, that airy aspect, but this Cucumber Mint truly is more watery and calm. This has the bright fruity citrus and the melons going on that this truly does not. Then we compare to another melon. This is the newly launched Boy Smells Rinder, like as in rind of watermelon. This was a trio of farm to candle fragrances from Boy Smells. I purchased 2 of the 3. I probably will get the 3rd, and I will be doing in-depth sniff comparison reviews on these sometime soon. But a bit of a preview here comparing Rinder to Paloma Melon. The notes on this one are watermelon, some green, some grassy notes, and amber. So not entirely dissimilar in at least fragrance note categories. Comparing the two, so quite different. Some similar categories, but really quite different in execution and actual notes, of course. But the Rinder has no sweet fruity. It's missing the zesty citrus of the Paloma Melon, and there's really no musk to it. And not that there's a heavy hit of musk in the Paloma Melon, it's more so, I think the salted musk kind of plays off the musky aspect that melons, cantaloupe, and the cassava melon can have, and just to bring a bit of depth beyond just highs of greens and citrus and melons. Rinder is more kind of that aromatic green, like the aquatic wet green rind of either an unripe watermelon, or you've gotten rid of most of the sweet fruity flesh and you're left with that kind of bitter, watery, very fresh and refreshing rind. Also, there's a bit of a floral and woody addition with some orris and lily and cedar. So quite different, other than they've got some similar green notes as well as the melon note, but very different as far as this has some true melon, the actual sweet flesh of the cantaloupe and the cassava, and this has more of the rind, as it says in the name. But interesting nonetheless. And then moving on to the two that perhaps a lot of folks will be most familiar with, from Bath & Body Works White Barn Candle Company. First up, let's do the old classic, the 25th anniversary of Cucumber Melon. This one has honeydew, cantaloupe, cucumber, some citrus, grapefruit, and typically some sheer woods. Smelling these two, also quite different. Where the Cucumber Melon, it's heavy on kind of the syrupy cantaloupe and really for me like overripe honeydew. There are less green notes in this because the Cucumber Melon is really missing kind of the mint, rosemary that is very present, and the clary sage, frankly, that is present in the Paloma Melon. There's a bit more of those kind of sheer, dry, calming, spa-like woods in the Cucumber Melon for me. And really, primarily, the Paloma Melon is more acidic. It has more of that acidic, bright juice from the trio of citruses from our yuzu, mandarin, and lime, where there's really, though they call it grapefruit in here, I don't really get much in the way of airy, bright, uplifting citruses the way that you do in the Paloma Melon. And then finally, the one that I actually thought this was in some ways perhaps most similar to, surprisingly, is a recent launch from Bath & Body Works White Barn Candle Company, and that is from their June 2023 blends collection, Watermelon, Lemonade, and Eucalyptus Mint. This, of course, is watermelon, Meyer lemon, and eucalyptus. So similar, melon, citrus, and green, right? Comparing the two, the Watermelon, Lemonade, Eucalyptus Mint is heavy on the eucalyptus, and a much more obvious mint because that eucalyptus mint fragrance is very heavy on both of those notes. There's not nearly as much mint in the Paloma Melon, but the balance of sort of musky and authentically aromatic melon, kind of not candied melon, does match a bit. So a lot of the Bath & Body Works melon, watermelon fragrances over the years do lean more artificial Jolly Rancher. In fact, I think the Watermelon Lemonade, one of the two fragrances that this is a blend of, leans more candied, I think. But this one smells a bit more authentic, like the true rind and just the watery, light, almost earthy aspect that sometimes a half-ripe watermelon can bring. And that's similar to the authenticity of the melons that we get in Paloma Melon. You get very little lemon in the Watermelon Lemonade, maybe more of the juice versus the bright, zippy zest. I would say that you do get more of the bright tartness of those citruses in the Paloma Melon. At the end of the day, I do think that the Bath & Body Works one is interesting, and I enjoy the balance between some of the sweetness as well as the more aromatherapeutic spa-like airy eucalyptus and mint. End of the day, LAFCO is more bright, acidic, and summery. Going back to what I said when I got my nose on it originally, compared to all of these, this one really does come across as the most summery. What I find interesting about that is it, at the same time, does not read an obvious tropical drink. Like I said, many fragrances do at Bath & Body Works. And don't get me wrong, I'm not disrespecting or hating on that. You know, when I think of Mango Cilantro from Bath & Body Works or Island Nectar, they have had some really nice, obviously tropical, fun in the sun, fruity, hot, sweet, almost cloying, sippable fragrances. And this is not exactly that obvious, but it just feels authentically summer. You know, they call this out as refreshing and vivacious. And I would agree with that. Just a fresh summer afternoon. So that is my in-depth sniff and comparison review on LAFCO New York's Paloma Melon. If you've sniffed this, if you've purchased this, let me know what you think. If you have any questions on this fragrance or any of the other LAFCO fragrances I've reviewed, I would be happy to answer those for you. And until next time, take care.